So India are through to a final in a competition that they can't lose. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the ICC have already got their name on the trophy. Kohli, the chase master, does it again. Australia with 6, 7 injuries, however many they've got now, weren't quite good enough on the day to beat probably the best white ball side that we've seen in a long time. I'm joined with Jack today. Jack, India aren't going to be beaten, are they?
You just can't see it really. Everything seems to be sort of written in the stars for them to win this tournament. I've said it from sort of the first game, and despite whatever challenge they have, they seem to overcome it.
Hmm.
Much like today, Australia did post a 50 below par score, but they still made pretty light work of it ultimately.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Australia's innings was funny. I thought it was a case of they just went at the wrong time.
Yeah,
So it got to like 35 overs, and Steve Smith all of a sudden decided to just whack it out of nowhere. And I was like, we no, you don't really need to do that. Like 280, 290 on this pitch is actually really competitive. 260 isn't. They're going to chase down 260 with ease. And when Steve Smith went for that big hack, even going back early when Travis Head off the first ball off Chakravarti went for a big shot, that just didn't make any sense to me why he went for that shot. I don't know. And then you had Maxwell hit a 6, then tries to slog the next one. Um, Kerry batted okay, but there just seems to be too many mistakes from this Australia side that you weren't necessarily used to seeing. Is it just that they're missing Cummins and that kind of calm head?
yeah, perhaps so. It's they aren't missing too many of their sort of power hitters. They still have Maxwell. I guess they might be missing Mitchell Marsh or Stoinis in that middle order. I think one of their problems is they seem a bit sort of stuck at 3 and 4 with Marnus and Smith. They both at times can both sort of get caught in their shell a bit, and then I think that's what ultimately led to both their dismissals.
Yeah, I mean, that is especially when they lose early wickets and you have Marnus and Smith both in that power play. Okay, Smith was okay, and he got bogged down towards the middle, whereas Marnus I think went about a run a ball, maybe a little bit less.
Yeah,
But it was, I mean, Cooper Connolly's innings today. That was one of the worst I've ever seen. I mean, he's 0 off 9. He defended the first ball and then didn't hit and the next 7 and then edged the 8th. I mean, it was a bizarre innings. Okay, it's the biggest game that he's ever played. He's thrown to open the batting against Shami, and that's a difficult task. But he looked miles away. And when they lose Travis Head early as well, I think Smith came in about the third or fourth over, and Marnus was in by 6 or 7. They're always struggling from there. They just cannot take advantage of that power play at that point.
yeah, I completely agree. The Connolly experiment didn't work. I was a bit surprised he did open. I thought they may have gone a bit left field and put Inglis or Maxwell just as a to do something a bit different, but he didn't look comfortable at all. Like you said, I think he played and missed 4 or 5 of the 9 balls he got, and it just meant Smith had too much to do. And then when Head got out at the worst possible time, he should have probably had a bit more of a look at Chakravarti. We've seen how brilliant he's been, and it just left a rebuild task for him and for Smith and Marnus, and they didn't quite know where they were going to go ultimately. And I think that's what sort of caused them both to get out when they did.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't go for Fraser McGurk. Not because he's been in the best form, because he's looked awful for a long time now. Purely for the fact of if he just gives it a whack and it comes off and he scores you 30 off 12, that's such a head start. And that's almost a bonus rather than someone going out there and scoring you 30 off 40 because you haven't taken advantage of the power play and you're not above the. I just thought that on paper, India's team is far better than Australia's with their attack missing. I thought you've got to go funny. You either go Fraser McGurk and just hope that he gets you a quick 30 off 10 or 12 balls. Head has to go nuts or Maxwell has to go nuts. That was the way they won this game, and just none of those things happened really.
Yeah, I completely agree. They should have gone for someone like McGurk or even Josh Inglis or Glenn Maxwell, but I get why they want them both there for potential chases. We saw how good they were against England, but to sort of throw a debutant there, left-hander as well, he's done okay in the Big Bash, but I don't think he's ever opened before. I could be wrong, but
I think there was a game where he batted 3 in the Big Bash. I think that's as high as he's gone.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it
well,
was too much really to ask for someone just to, especially the quality India have, and like you said, someone that could have just got a very quick 30 or 15. It would have sort of worked better for their middle order.
yeah, I agree. Although saying that, I thought Cooper Connolly bowled very well. I thought he bowled superbly. Who did he get the wicket off? Was it? It was
Sharma.
Was it? It was Rowett, wasn't it? That he
Yeah,
got
he
the wicket
dropped him
off.
at point as well, so he's having the most sort of nightmare game really, the drop catch. But he came on and bowled very well. I thought he looked pretty comfortable there. He trapped Rohit well. I think he went at 4 and over. So
Yeah,
the bowling side is really good.
yeah, and that's. I like Cooper Connolly as a prospect. It's just his bowling that I've never really liked. But I thought that he was sensational today with the ball. I really didn't expect that on a day where, again, it was. I want to say none of the Australian bowlers turned up, but I think that chase was just so easy. And when you've got someone that chases, especially like a low score like 260, like Virat Kohli does, he is never ever out of control, with the exception of the shot that he played, which was so unlike him to get out. He just it was perfect. The ground is it's not a small ground, so he can knock ones and twos around. He never really had to go above 5, 6 and over, and it was just set up perfectly for him. He deserved a century, but for some reason he tried to. I can't even remember who he tried to smash. It was Zampa, wasn't it?
Yeah, Zampa. But yeah, just echoing what you said, he is just like the ultimate run chaser in ODI cricket. He's shown it for so many years, and today was just perfect. I think he had 50 singles, so he hit a half century of just singles. I think he only hit 5 fours, and he just looked so in control the whole time. And like you said, it was quite a shock that he did get out, because you would have sort of banked most of your money on him getting the ton at the end. We all know he loves a trophy not out next to his name, particularly when he scored 100. We saw against Pakistan, but I don't quite know why he played that shot. I guess he saw Rahul play a couple of aggressive shots the over before, and yeah, hold out to I think it was Maxwell at long on off Sampa.
Yeah, I think he just picked the wrong one early and
Yeah,
thought, okay, I'm going to take this with the spin. Um, but he didn't quite get that bottom hand round enough to get it square enough to get it over mid wicket, and it kind of ended up at long on. I think that was the issue behind the shot.
yeah,
I thought, I mean, India just looked like such a dominant team. I know there's been a lot of talk of, oh, it's basically gifted to them being in Dubai, but this game could have been at Melbourne today and they still win it.
yeah, definitely. They look so strong in form, and to think they're actually missing Boomer as well with the ball is quite frightening.
Mm.
It would have been interested. I think it would have been a much better chase if Australia had come in Stark, Hazelwood, to give them a bit more bite with the new ball. I think,
Especially in that middle over
yeah,
section. I think that's where they really missed like a Hazelwood.
yeah,
Or I think they actually mentioned it on commentary as well. Of this is where they'd usually throw the ball to Stark,
yeah,
and Stark would, because he's a wicket taker at the end of the day. And I also think it would make, especially a bowler like Nathan Ellis, a lot better if they had someone like a Stark. For the simple fact of Nathan Ellis is such a defensive bowler that you can if you've got someone taking wickets at the other end, which I think is sometimes what he misses with when he's bowling with Spencer Johnson and Dwarshus. But if he can be defensive, he can build up pressure, and then they can
yeah.
take wickets from the other end.
Yeah, definitely. It's the amazing thing about those three bowlers is how well they bowl as like a partnership. We've seen them do it for years. I was a little bit surprised why they dropped Spencer Johnson, because I think he was sort of the closest stark sort of bowler they have. Someone's a bit quicker. He can bowl sort of 90 mph, but I think they were a little bit concerned about he does go for runs, much like Mitchell Stark. So I guess that's why they went for Ellis ahead of him.
Yeah, and I think Dwarshus probably offers you a little bit more with a bat than Spencer Johnson does.
Yeah, that's another thing. 'Cause their tail, even today, their tail was quite long. We had Zampa coming in at number 9, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the problem. I mean, playing Tanvir saying, I'm glad that they did because I quite liked him and I liked him in the Big Bash, but he kind of didn't do anything today, did he? Just incredibly quiet. It was a case of he'd come on to bowl, I was watching it while I was at work, and he'd come onto bowl, and you just kind of think, "Oh, okay, there's another over gone that they've knocked 4 or 5 singles in,
Yeah,
and never looked in any real trouble."
yeah. Kohli played him perfectly. He didn't bowl badly, but like you said, every sort of over he went at 4 or 5, and that's all India needed to do. They didn't have to take risks against him. I'd like to have seen Kohli's like wagon wheel against him because pretty much every ball I seem to remember him facing, he just sort of knocked it down the ground for one.
Yeah, and yeah, I thought that's what he did so well today. In terms of the Indian bowling performance, I, I was expecting. I don't know why. Just every time I see Chakravarti bowl, I expect him to take about 9 wickets. Um, and I think if he had 10 Harry Brooks to bowl at, he probably would take 9. But unfortunately, he doesn't. I think it was just the 2 that he picked up today. He picked up obviously the big one of Travis Head early in his second ball, and then picked up one at the end. But their spin attack is just something else, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. He, much like you, I thought he got a 5 for only 2 days ago. I thought Smith played him quite well though. Smith played a really good innings. He did much like Kohli did for India. Smith did sort of knock him about quite nicely for singles, but the problem is after that you had Yadav. Um, Axar Patel bowled pretty well as well. Jadeja got the 2 big wickets. He got the crucial wicket of Labuschagne, and I think he got Inglis out as well. The sort of
Yeah, he did. It was the
after.
one that he got stuck, didn't it? And he just chipped
Yeah,
it to Kohli at cover. Yeah, I mean, they're always just so good, and there's variety that you wouldn't expect to see from a 4 spin bowling
yeah,
lineup. Of the fact that you've got whatever Chakravarti, I guess he's a wrist spinner, but it's more of a mystery spinner. You've got Kuldeep that can turn it both ways, and a left arm wrist spin action that you just never see. And then you've obviously got the 2 left arm spinners in Axar and Jadeja, and although they're very similar, um, they just get through those overs so quickly, and they just rush you and hurry you. And when they're both working in tandem, it almost complements each other.
yeah, 100%. It was beautiful to watch really because, like you said, they've got so much variety. But it's the 3 left armers, but you've got Kuldeep that does offer something different. I think he's a more wrist spin left arm spinner. Axar's just very accurate and mixes his pace very well, much like Jadeja. And then Chakravarti's, yeah, the best way of putting him is sort of a mystery wrist spinner because he bowls leg spin, but he's got so many googlies and top spinners. And there's just no breathing space as a batter. I think that's why Smith did what he did against Mohamed Shami. I think he just had enough of being reined in by the spinners and thought a bit of pace here. I'm going to try and carve him through cover or walk down the ground to him. But Shami's been a brilliant bowler for them as well. So there is no there's no sort of easy runs out there.
Yeah, and even Hardick, when you think that he's your 6th bowler, and I mean, even some of the stuff that he bowled towards the end of just very, very slow off cutters into the pitch. If you're a tail ender, you've got no chance of hitting that, and it's just clever bowling that they have, and with that ability that Hardick can bat in that top 6. I mean, they've got 3 players that can bowl you 10 overs and bat in the top 6, and you just don't see that with any other team.
Yeah, the balance they've got is just it's from an England point of view very jealous since obviously Ben Stokes no longer plays. We've been trying to make 10 overs with Livingston and Root, whereas they've got Pandya. Axar Patel's been promoted to number 5 now and looks pretty good there.
Hmm.
Even Ravi Jadeja today coming at number 8. He could probably bat top 6. In fact, he does in Test matches. It's just sort of an embarrassment of riches that they seem to have, really, compared to everyone else.
Yeah, and I think that's why Australia try to go early with their attacking, because they think, okay, if I've got Jadeja coming in at 8, 300, 320 is probably going to be chaseable for this team. If I got to try and push to 330,
Yeah,
350, it just felt far too early for Australia. It just felt a little bit stupid from them. And I just wasn't expecting it from a team you expect to be so well drilled, and they just didn't seem to be today. Um, India make it through. That means that we're in Dubai on Sunday for the final. We've obviously got the second semi final coming up tomorrow. Who do we think joins India?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this over the last couple of days. I said before the tournament, South Africa, um, but New Zealand just looks so good and well drilled. But then they did lose on Sunday against India, so I don't know how much that could affect them. Um, India, an incredible side, but perhaps they've lost a little bit of momentum. Um,
Yeah, I mean, if there's a side not to worry about losing a game, I do think it's New Zealand. Just as a nation, they're very kind of, it'll be all right, we'll be fine, we'll get through
yeah,
it. And I think that their players probably see it the same way. This semi final is almost impossible to call for me. I had India winning this by a landslide. I didn't see Australia winning. I think I'm slightly favouring New Zealand because I think their players have just been there a bit more. They've been in semi-finals and finals and stuff, and there's just a bit more experience than there is necessarily in this South Africa team, and that's why I'm going. I think if I had to pick a team of who I want, I'd probably go slightly South Africa. If I think of a team that can get it done, I think I'm slightly New Zealand.
yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly. Really, New Zealand do have players that a lot of that team played in the 2019 final, for example, and
Yeah,
the travel aspect as well. South Africa had to fly to Dubai, I think, on Saturday and stay there till Sunday, and then fly back. So that could potentially sort of make them a little bit tired and not quite prepared as much as New Zealand.
yeah. I mean, South Africa at the moment have they're slightly favourites, not by much in the betting odds. It's
Mm.
about 45%, 55% in favour of South Africa. So it is close. I don't know. It just there's a lot more. As amazing, I've always talked about this middle order of South Africa and how good that I think they are. Of that, Klaassen, Markram, Van der Dusen, Miller, even Rickleton, and whoever they go with at the top.
Yeah,
If they go Stubbs again, if they go Bavuma or Dezorzi, I'm pretty much happy with it. And then obviously the bowling attack is even better. Of Ngidi worries me a little bit, but Rabada and Janssen, even Mulder, who's
he's been
been
good.
really good this tournament. I just
Maharaj
think that
has been good. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. If they do get through to a final, then that second spinner in Shamsi would worry me. He's been out of touch a little bit. Um, I, yeah, I think it's going to be such a good game tomorrow. Or some team just gets completely blown away. I think it's going to be high scoring tomorrow. I'd be amazed if we don't see a 330, 350 score.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the toss will be crucial. I'm not sure how much the dew factor will be there. I think it seems to have calmed down over the last few games I've found watching from what I've watched. The first sort of 4 to 5 days, there seem to be real dew issues. Maybe the climate's improved, but yeah, I think it's going to be big runs. I think both teams are capable of posting 350 with their attack. Both teams have good bowling attacks as well, but yeah, I can only see a big run chase. I feel, and if yeah, it could go either way. I'm leaning slightly towards South Africa, just for the fact that they haven't lost. They beat us on Saturday, although we were poor.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
I
all
think I
right.
think it depends how the game goes. I think if you're looking at like a 350, 380 shootout, then I'm picking South Africa every time. If we're looking at like a little grubby 275 game, then I want New Zealand in that one.
Yeah, you want William?
Yeah, think that's how it's going to play out. And I think it just completely depends on some early wickets. Going to have to take some early wickets, both teams. I mean, South Africa probably a little bit better in the middle order, in the middle overs with Rabada coming on second
Yeah,
change and then Maharaj. So yeah, I think that would be really interesting. I'm going to go with New Zealand. I've picked a New Zealand India final from the start, um, and New Zealand win it all. But that's where I'm going to be. Um, can either of these teams beat India?
I think they can. They definitely can. But just from what I've seen from India this tournament, I just can't see them losing the game. But then with the final scenario, but then you're considering New Zealand and South Africa, who both haven't got great records in finals themselves. It's almost written that maybe there would be an upset just for the pure factor that
Yeah, I mean, even if we go back to India's when they actually won in last year in the T20 World Cup, South Africa should have won that. I mean,
yeah,
if they didn't get boomeranged, they needed like 30 off 30 with Klaassen at the crease on 76 off 40.
yeah,
They
Miller.
should have walked it, and they just didn't. I don't know if that was South Africa bottling it or Boomerang just being one of the best bowlers we've ever seen. It's probably a bit in the middle. Um, I'd fancy New Zealand against this India side. I think they can be a bit funny with New Zealand. I think there's a few ways that they could probably win it. You
Yeah,
have a you have a 60 off 30 from Phillips. Williamson goes out and scores a ton, or Ratchin goes out and scores a ton. And I think there's a way that works. Obviously, they've beaten them in the Test series not that long ago. They've had problems with them in the past. Obviously, the 2019 semi final, the World Test Championship final in 2021. There's just been a couple of times that New
yeah,
Zealand have just kind of got the better of India. And for that reason, I might just fancy them. Not that much. I mean, India would still be my favourites and more than even favourites for me for them to win it for me at the moment. But I
yeah.
do think that there is a shout of them doing something.
Yeah, even on Sunday, I think New Zealand could have and should have chased the 249. They they just got blown away by Chakravarti, but Williamson stays to the end. They probably would have won the game. Um, but yeah, I like how you described it. I think New Zealand are probably a better side v India compared to South Africa. Um,
Yeah, and also depends what pitch we play on.
yeah,
Because the one that we played on today was completely different to the one that New Zealand played on Sunday.
played a lot
Um,
better.
yeah, this I think this was the same. This was either a fresh pitch or it was the same one they played against Pakistan on. I can't remember which one it is. It's either or. One of them said that it was a fresh pitch. Then someone came out and said, "Well, no, there's only two pitches, so there can't be a fresh pitch." So I'm not 100% sure what it was, but this because the one against Pakistan didn't spin as much either. So I think this was the same as the Pakistan one. Whether we play on this one again in the final, then that could be a different story. Then India might as well pick five spinners for that one, and just go all out with spin. In terms of India playing in Dubai and the Champions Trophy overall, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's obviously a real sort of debatable thing on particularly on TikTok and Twitter. But yeah, I mean it's putting even more advantage in India's hands. Really, they're getting even more cards dealt towards them. But it is what it is. I think people have maybe sort of blamed it too much on India's dominance rather than them actually having a brilliant squad in form. Um, the fact that the finals there is going to be quite a um, it's quite upsetting considering Pakistan they sort of won to host the tournament and they've got so many fans there and but ultimately
Yeah,
bigger decision for another day really.
yeah. I mean, I think the only consolation is that Pakistan aren't in the final.
Yeah,
If Pakistan are in the final and we're playing it in Dubai, then that seems like a bit of a farce. I mean, the problem is that we're now at the point where the last four games of the tournament, three of them are going to be played in Dubai.
yeah,
Because you obviously had the last of the group games, the semi final, and the final. It's only that I actually forgot that South Africa and New Zealand were in Pakistan tomorrow. I just thought they were playing at Abu Dhabi or Sharjah or something because I just forgot that Pakistan hosted this. Because they only played the one game against New Zealand at the very start of the tournament, then they played in Dubai against India. Then they had a game rained off. So since the first day of the tournament, we haven't actually seen Pakistan play in Pakistan.
yeah. It just feels like it's India's tournament full stop. That's why I think they're going to win comfortably. Um, the fans make a big difference as well. Like the crowd today was insane. It did feel like it was in India. Um, the way they were sort of cheering every single that Kohli hit towards the end, and it's yeah, rightly or wrongly, it's given India a massive advantage. And I do feel sorry for Pakistan, that particularly when they had to go out there and play India over there, considering it's going to be their home tournament. They've lost all the home advantage that one would normally have in a tournament. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's
I mean, India always have that home advantage, don't they? You even saw it in America. It was for that Pakistan game. It was 85% India. They've just got the population, so you'd always expect that. But the problem is, the one place that there wouldn't be an India advantage in the crowd is in Pakistan. So I've stood by the fact of, I understand why they didn't want to travel to Pakistan, and if they didn't feel safe, then no one should be forced to go somewhere that they don't feel safe. And I also understand from the ICC's perspective that India have to play, otherwise they don't make any money.
yeah,
So that makes sense to me. But just the way it's all turned out, is there a better way we could have done it? Probably. But I think I said this in the last podcast. If I'm head of finance at the ICC and I make the most money out of India getting as far in the tournament as possible, I'm not going to do too much out my way to make life difficult for India.
yeah, 100%. I think the one thing they could have done was acted upon it sooner. They sort of did it in, I think it's like December time. I think it got confirmed. So that's only 2 months before the tournament starts. So I think maybe if they acted upon it maybe a year ago. They could have planned the fixtures better. But yeah, it's just a real awkward scenario that's put a bit of a damp spot on the tournament, really.
Yeah, and as much of a shame as it is, I just don't understand why they gave Pakistan the tournament. Like, I understand that, okay, they haven't had one in nearly 30 years, and people are starting to tour there and stuff now, but surely you knew that India weren't going to go there. I mean, even when they announced that Pakistan are going to be hosting the Champions Trophy, it was a case of, well, India aren't going to go, so where are they going to play? And they were like, and it was very much of a case of, no, they'll come, we'll sort it out at the time, it'll be, there are no problems. And everyone was like, no, they're not going to come. We just know this. And it will be interesting to see if Pakistan don't travel to India for the T20 World Cup next year. Obviously, that was part of the deal with India playing in Dubai, that they'll also have a neutral venue. Now, the T20 World Cup is in India and Sri Lanka, so that's probably a little bit easier to fix than it is this time. But I think it's interesting. I mean, in terms of the Champions Trophy, how have you found the tournament? Is it been entertaining? Has it been?
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I've liked the fact there's been a game every day apart from semi-final stage.
Hmm,
The the cricket's been. I think the best game was probably England Australia. That was probably the best game so far. Um, I thought the first 4 or 5 days were very very good. We saw some good games, but the bad weather hasn't helped. I
no.
think there was 2 games that were up. I was really looking forward to the Australia South Africa game, um, but I guess we can't help the weather. But overall, I've enjoyed it. It's been a welcome break. We haven't had one for 8 years, um, but I do worry if there's really, are we even going to have another one in 4 years' time? Or
It depends who wins it. I think
yeah,
if India wins it, then we might never see it again. I mean, they've cancelled it 3 times now. This is like the third time that it's come back, and we had an 8-year gap. Everyone forgot who was the defending champions until someone looked it up and realised that it was Pakistan. Won it at the Oval, wasn't it, in 2017?
yeah. We hosted 2 in a row, which I was amazed when I read up on it a couple of
It's be,
weeks.
it's because no one wanted to host it. No one cared about it. No one could be bothered to spend the money to host the thing. A little bit like we've hosted 3 World Test Championships in a row because no one else really wanted to host it. Because they didn't want to be shown up that no one else would fill out a neutral test stadium. Um,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I think it's difficult with no one playing the ODI format anymore. People just don't seem to have the skills, especially the teams lower down like England, Pakistan, Bangladesh, are just kind of struggling to find that ODI rhythm. And I think that's been a bit of an issue. But then saying that, England have played the 2 most exciting games of the whole tournament. So
yeah,
we're obviously saving Test cricket and ODI
and
cricket
ODI
now.
cricket.
which is
Yeah, I was
fantastic.
really looking forward to the tournament, thinking it could sort of revive the general public's interest in ODI cricket. But if anything, it's probably just sort of made the inevitable happen, really, that ODI cricket isn't as exciting right now. Um, if this tournament was meant to be the tournament to revive that, it's unless we
And
get a cracker tomorrow and a cracker of a final on Sunday.
yeah, I can't see that happening, I have to admit. I mean, tomorrow might be a good game, but probably very comfortably India on a pitch that turns square in the final on Saturday or Sunday or whatever we are. Um, that will probably be the way it goes. I mean, ODI cricket's probably moving that way anyway. If we have another 50 over World Cup past 2031, it would surprise me at this point.
Yeah, definitely. We've got the one in 2 years. I think that's in Africa, which and I think there's been, like you said, I think there's been one in 2031 announced. But
Yeah, I heard on a podcast or something earlier. I think the next like 4 tournaments are all in India. So everything that's announced. So you've got the 2026
T20,
T20 World Cup in India. The 2029 Champions Trophy is going to be in India, and the 2031 World Cup is going to be in India. So that they've got quite a lot of the tournaments coming up.
yeah, that's sort of the ICC's way of trying to sort of squeeze the last bit of life out of ODI cricket. I guess it's the right way to do it, to have it in India. But yeah, it's a shame because ODI is the sort of format that, like myself, being a bit of a noughties kid growing up then, in the noughties, it was ODI cricket. There's so much of it. It's what sort of the general publics tend to play more of in English and the village cricket leagues.
Mm.
But it just hasn't been. It just hasn't been sort of trying to sort of pinpoint what's gone wrong with ODI cricket. But ultimately, it's just the sort of increase of T20 that killed it off. Really.
Yeah, I think so. Just that people not really learning how to play it, but we'll see what happens with it. So,
Yeah.
Jack, last one. Who makes the final tomorrow and who wins it? Final predictions.
So I'm going to stick with South Africa to beat New Zealand. I think it will be close, and then in the final, India to beat South Africa. Quite
I'm gonna go the
comfortable.
other. I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go New Zealand to beat South Africa, New Zealand to win it all, and my 7-1 bet to come in, and then everyone
Oh,
can stop moaning at me to say that I didn't get a single selection right because I picked Harry Brook to be top run scorer, and that's gone terribly.
yeah,
Jack,
I'm Arson.
Jack, thank you very much for coming on. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Charlie, really
Um,
quick.
that's all right, Jack. If you do want to check Jack out, his channel is the Left Arm Seamer. It will be in the show notes and the description below. We'll be back tomorrow for the New Zealand South Africa review. So make sure you like, subscribe, follow, leave a rating, leave a review, for whatever else you can do on podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it. We are on there. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.